Hello. So today I'm going to be talking about reading, retention, and assimilation. On my list, continue to ask me why do they read and they don't understand. Some people say they read, they forget easily, and there are certain things I tell them. I'm going to share with you those things that I do tell them. Now, reading and studying are two different things. Most of the time, people read, they don't study. Yes, most of the time people read, they don't study. Now, reading and studying go pari passu, and if you do want to engage in good study habits, you must understand the power of having a timetable. A timetable is a roadmap that guides your reading and studying process. A timetable is like a guide on all the courses that you are offering and your reading mode. And so many people do not have a reading timetable, and if they have a reading timetable, they do not part-time stick to their reading timetable. And because they do not part-time stick to their reading timetable, they have issues of understanding and retaining what they have read. That is, retention becomes difficult because they do not have a stable reading or stable studying habit. So the first thing you have to know is that if you desire to read, retain, and assimilate, you must have a study timetable. A roadmap is your study timetable on all your courses, and you must be consistent with your study timetable. And so while you are reading, there are certain things that you need to avoid. Avoid distractions, avoid noise, avoid pressing your mobile phone except you are surfing through the internet. Avoid anything that can distract you. Avoid thinking, avoid vocalization, reading out what you are reading. Avoid certain factors that can impair your understanding and good study process. So while you are reading, get a good space, get a good lighting, get a note, a writing material. Then set a time frame for your reading process, number of hours that you want to read or minutes. So after you do that, another thing I tell people to do is they must consistently go through and go back to what they've read. And most of the time I tell people that review is different from reading, and revision is different from reading. A lot of students who are in their institution today do not read, they only read when examination is closer. They don't review, they don't revise. So what they do is when exam is fast approaching, they just read. However, they jump certain process that will aid retention and assimilation. So another thing that I will also need to add is that while you read, you review. Review it's an opportunity for you to check what you've read. It's an opportunity for you to ask certain questions on what you've read, if you can still remember. So once you've read one particular thing, once you read through your notes, your material, textbook, a week or days after, you need to ask yourself if you can still remember what you've read. That is, when you review, you look at the things you've read, you consider if you can remember. Now, one of the things I advise students to do is that if you learn a particular course in a day, to aid retention, you need to study and go through that course that same day. When you do that, it has a way of helping you to retain what you have learned, because it is still fresh in your short-term memory, and it moves from the short-term memory to long-term memory. So another thing I tell people to do, apart from when you read, you read consistently, you read without distractions, you revise. Another thing that is very important is to review. And when you review what you've read, it gives you an opportunity to look at the things you remember and the things that you do not remember. So once you know the things that you can remember, you work on other things that you cannot remember. So if you are able to follow through this process, you will discover that retention and assimilation becomes easy because you've not jumped a particular process before another. So you can always form the habit of reading consistently in order to understand the subject, the topic, the course, the material, or what have you. When you read consistently, it's a way to retain what you've read, and it's a way to it's one of the basic way to that will aid your assimilation. So if you do believe that reading to be something habitual, you must have a timetable, you must have a time frame, you must have a limit that you create for yourself, you must have a designated period for your reading habit. And so when you do this, you are studying in the process, and remembering things you've read will become so easy because you have put certain process in place. So in my next video, I'm going to be talking about SQ3R and why is it important to use the SQ3R to read, to prepare for exams, and to help in retention. S stands for survey, Q stands for question, R1 stands for read, R2 recall, and R3 review. So it is important that you form a good study reading habit if you truly desire to assimilate. Avoid distractions, avoid noise, avoid overthinking, avoid anything that will influence your attention negatively, or anything that will drive away your attention from what you are reading when you are reading. And so if you are sure to put all this process and avoid certain things that I've said, you will discover that reading becomes easy. Although I've discovered personality now that people do not really like to read. A lot of people see reading as a kind of big stress for them. Now, if you are in this category, all that you only need to do is from your 24 hours, find a reading time that you would like to read, and as you start to do that consistently, it becomes a habit, and you find your heart going to the time that you're supposed to do that particular thing. So we all must understand that one of the best way to get information, facts, and specifics is reading. And so some people do say that if you want to hide something from some people, keep it in a book. They will not surely read it. So reading, studying, retention, assimilation, all of these things will be possible if you follow through the process that I've said. So if you find this video worth it, has added value to you, do let me know, and don't forget to subscribe.